first scrimmage, really what was unique about this was the format because of the restrictions from the NCAA. So this was really our second day in full pads. So a little bit of a modified scrimmage where the front end kind of live tackled. In the second half, we went more thud tempo just for safety precautions with our kids and sticking to the mandate. So I thought defensively, we had a really good day. I thought the guys, for the most part, played sound, played discipline, made things, they didn't give any freebies, which is, obviously one of the key components of defense is not giving up those explosive plays because of breakdowns up front or in the secondary. I thought guys were competitive and got people on the ground. I thought offensively, probably the day was kind of summed up by two things. One, kind of some missed opportunities. I thought there were some plays there to be had, whether, we missed a read at quarterback or didn't make a play at wide out or maybe missed a read at running back, that set the tone a little bit for the guys offensively, which, that's the key to the drill offensively. It's about that same discipline of execution of, when that opportunity strikes, you got to have that ability to make your play. I think in the end, it was really good for us to get out in the heat, in the sun, in DKR, because I did think that the weather took its toll on us a little bit today. And I don't think necessarily from a conditioning standpoint physically, but I think a little bit of the mental conditioning of dealing with that. And as we all know, come September 4th, we're kicking off at 3:30, and we're going to have to be able to operate at a very high level in the same circumstances. So we got to improve that from this week to next week. We'll start our second week of camp now on Monday, where we definitely have things to improve on. So good first week, good start to it all, but definitely have a lot of work to do to get to where we want to be.
Thanks, Coach. Brian, go ahead and start us off.
Steve, when you were building the defensive plan for today, did you want to force Casey and Hudson into specific situations or see if they handled certain skill sets?
I don't know if it was so much of defensively we tried to do that. I think offensively we did. I felt like we didn't want to play it conservative today. I wanted to push the limit with them and look at the decision making, which I thought we did. And quite frankly, neither guy played up to the standard that I view as acceptable. And I think what they view as acceptable. But that's, I think, part of the process. It's, both those guys had really good first week. And then all of a sudden we go to a scrimmage format and we didn't apply the things that we had done all week long. And that's the key to the drill. The key to the drill is applying the preparation to the performance. And we were too inconsistent at doing that today. So both guys going into next week have got to take the practice reps and then ultimately apply it to the scrimmage next Saturday.
Chris, go ahead.
Steve, just as a whole, what did you want to get out of this first scrimmage, this first week of camp, and were you able to do that? What was your big general takeaways?
Well, we've made camp, is I think taxing as you can make it under the format that we're in, right? You got to have your two non-padded practices to start it. You got to then go half pads, and then you get to have your full pad practice. And then the way it broke down, we had to have a practice, in half pads yesterday to get ready for a scrimmage today. Probably, ideally next week we'll have a little better format, a little better flow where Friday is a helmet practice to get ready for the scrimmage on Saturday. But, the reality of it is we're trying to put these guys in some uncomfortable situations, some uncomfortable circumstances, whether it's the weather, whether it's a morning practice, a night practice, an afternoon practice, whether it's with our schemes and our install. Clearly that's all going to slow down here more into the second week. And now we got to find a better level of consistency. But, what we were trying to do is push the guys, quite frankly, and understand that you got to push through the adversity because that's what the game is about, and then ultimately perform. And, I thought there were moments today when we did that, but not nearly consistent enough for us to do it at a very high level come the season. So that's what training camp's for. We've started the process, and now we've got to continue to do the work to improve in all phases.
Jeff, go ahead.
Sark, you might have a better answer to this after you watch the tape for today, but from right now, a week into camp and through this first scrimmage, from a position group / personnel standpoint, what do you feel really good about right now? And then what are some areas where you feel like, maybe you need to see some consistency form or just things pick up a little bit by the time you get to that next scrimmage?
I feel really good about our defensive front. And that's pretty consistent of kind of where we were at in spring. I think we've got a deep group across that line of scrimmage. I think obviously now with the addition of Demo at backer, that front is very active. They're disruptive. I feel good about the running back position. I feel confident we're 4 deep at that position with Bijan, Roshan, Keelan, and Brooks. I feel good about the tight ends. I think Cade and Jared are both playing well. I think Gunnar Helm is coming. I think JT and Juan are coming. I feel good about what's happening in the secondary. I think we're finding the right mix of people. So those are all the kind of the real positives of where we're at. Not to be down on the other groups, because I do think we have depth and opportunity there to really grow, but we need to find better consistency at some of those other positions that I didn't mention.
Kirk, you're up.
Yeah, Steve, did either quarterback have turnovers today? And who were the most physical players in today's scrimmage?
John, you got to correct me if I'm wrong. Did Casey have 1 turnover today, I believe?
Correct. Yep.
Is that the only one that those 2 guys had?
Yep.
I think that was the only turnover there. I would say from a physicality standpoint, I thought Ovi really showed up today from a physicality standpoint. Definitely jumped out to me. The tape's going to help me there some. I think Chris Adamora had a relatively physical day. I'd have to look at the tape. And I thought Roshan played pretty physical out of the backfield. So just some guys that kind of jumped out off the top of my head.
And was the turnover an interception?
Yes, it was. It was on a little bit of a scramble, kind of a late throw on a scramble drill.
Anwar, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Coach. I guess the flip side, Coach, is when the offense didn't, maybe meet your expectations. The defense played pretty well. So were you pretty excited about what you saw from some of those guys on the defensive side?
I really was, and I think relatively typical. I'd probably be a lot more concerned if the offense came out and had a great day and we didn't play good defense today. I think pretty typical of this time in training camp that the defense can be a little bit ahead. But what it was encouraging was I thought the defense played really sound today, that there weren't breakdowns and coverages and different things for the most part. But again, this is a complimentary game. It's a team football game. It's always challenging when you're going against yourself. But if the defense can play sound and physical up front and not give up explosive plays, that can make it hard on an offense to put together, 8, 10, 12 play drives, because you have to be right that many times in a row. And that's one of the underlying themes of our defense, is making you earn it. And so that part was really positive. But, I think ultimately they're forcing the offense to play a very consistent brand of football. And today wasn't consistent enough. But like I said, if the roles were reversed, Anwar, I would be a lot more concerned if we didn't play good defense today. So the fact that we played good defense is really encouraging. I thought we saw flashes from the offense, but we're going to need more moving forward.
Cedric, go ahead.
Hey, Steve. I know you're preaching physicality during camp. How fine is that line for you as a coaching staff? How much do we hit today? When to back off? Because I know you don't want too many injuries, but a banged up team going into that season opener.
Well, I think you're spot on. I think it's, we don't want to be stubborn and just keep banging our head against the wall just to get a point across. And so we try to be really flexible with it, and we try to be cognizant of the like I said, the weather circumstances that we're in. So as tough as we're trying to make it, I think we need to be, aware of what our guys are going through. And so I think we found a nice balance. Like I said, I think the first half of training camp it is just that. It's going to be tough. We got to develop that mentality, that physicality, not only physicality, but the mental toughness to go along with it. And then as we start to build towards the ball game, start to taper that to make sure that we're in the right frame of mind and also in the right physical condition and being fresh and healthy. But, knock on wood, we're actually doing pretty good from an injury standpoint. I know we've got a couple bumps and bruises. We got a few guys that'll be back with us on Monday that we held out today, just to be a little bit cautious. So, I've seen worse after 1 week of training camp from an injury bug standpoint. So, we're kind of doing okay there.
Nick, you're up.
Yeah, Steve, you mentioned Bijan Robinson earlier, and obviously that's a crowded position group. But what did you see today from him that you really liked and made you want to point him out? And how do you envision sort of deploying him and trying to get him some touches? Being behind Bijan and all those other guys in the room.
I think Keelan is a very confident player. I think obviously, he had been in our system before, so he came in confident, knowing kind of what to do. He's a shifty player. He's savvy. He's good on special teams. And for not a big stature guy, he plays a physical brand of football. He finishes runs. He plays with good pad level. And I just think it's a really cool combination when you have Bijan and Roshan and their style of play, and then you have a Keelan as that change-up guy. I think it bodes well for us, moving forward of having, that kind of depth at that position, which clearly is important.
John, go ahead.
Coach, you talk about putting guys in uncomfortable positions, and the quarterbacks didn't step up to where you wanted them to or where they wanted to. How big of a concern is that 3 weeks away?
I wouldn't say it's a concern. I think that, the reality of it is I'm probably harder on that position than any other position on the field from a coaching perspective. And so, we demand a lot of them, and we're not going to settle. And so the point of that is, we're going to keep pushing them and to be the best that they can be so that we can be the best that we can be. And so I have to find that right threshold with them to know kind of where their ceiling is right now. And the only way you can find that out is by putting them in those scenarios to get a level of understanding of where they're at. Because the worst thing I would want is to go all training camp long with training wheels on those two guys, and then come the first game and I'm taking the training wheels off and I don't know that they can't ride a bike yet. So we take the training wheels off early. We force them to learn to ride a bike. And like a parent teaching your kid to ride a bike, at some point you got to let go of the seat and they might fall, but that's okay. We got to get them back up. We got to get them back on the bike and we got to let them learn to ride again. And, once they learn to ride, then they'll start pedaling faster and all those types of things. But you can't leave the training wheels on and then expect them to miraculously know how to ride a bike. You got to push the envelope, and that's what we're doing with them right now.
Ed, go ahead.
Coach, on the wide receivers, could you talk about any wide receiver that stood out during the scrimmage that has the training wheels off already?
I thought we played okay, quite frankly, at wideout today. We need to be better. I didn't think we played with quite the sense of urgency that we're accustomed to playing with. I think there was a little bit of a combination of them, the quarterbacks we were a little off. And I expect more out of them. I've seen more out of them. That's why I expect more out of them. And so there's that combination of the quarterback, wide receivers. Clearly that aspect of our game isn't where it needs to be yet.
Danny, go ahead.
Steve, is there a certain way you like to run your scrimmages? Is it ones versus ones, ones versus twos? Is there something special you like to do when you have these guys out there doing scrimmages?
It's probably a combination of both. We did a fair amount of ones versus twos versus ones, kind of in the first half of the scrimmage. Second half was all ones versus ones, twos versus twos, threes versus threes. So pretty good mix. The thing about it with the weather and the temperature right now, it was really a lot of guys rolling with the ones and the twos and vice versa, because we were trying to roll players a fair amount to really get them through. And I think that's what's going to be needed for us early in the season, just to think that all the guys at every position are just going to be able to stay in the entire time. Probably not a reality. We rolled our defensive front pretty good today, which we're able to do. We've got a deep front. We've got a lot of depth and guys that can play. And I think that showed today. I think them having the ability to be fresh and stay attack oriented, was paid dividends for him today.
Mike, you're up.
Hey, Coach, I just wanted to ask, you mentioned a little bit ago about the secondary and how you're pleased with them, and in contrast with the wide receivers not being assertive enough. What do you attribute that to? Is the secondary getting that much better, and who's standing out?
I think, like I said, I think some of that just comes with, I don't know if you want to call it first scrimmage, anxiousness from the wideout perspective. I also think there's a little bit there from, I thought the defense, like I said, played a very sound scrimmage. They kept things in front of them. They made their plays when the opportunities came. I thought when there were some opportunities for the offense, we missed them, whether it was a misread, misthrow, didn't catch it, whatever it was. And that's the level of consistency that's needed from an offensive perspective. I really think from a secondary standpoint, a guy who's really played well here throughout the first week has been Anthony Cook. I've been impressed with him. He's played physical. He's playing sound. I think Schooler has had a really good first week where he's at from the back end perspective. And I think Jameson has had a really good first week. Now, the other guys, not that they haven't, but BJ Foster, I think, has been pretty effective. I think Jaron Thompson's had a good week. So, through all that, we've got some depth there. We're trying to find the right mix, which we talked about early on in camp, of what's that right mix with the nickel, the safeties, things of that nature. But, again, I think offensively, we have to take advantage of those opportunities when they're presented.
Got time for two last ones. Sam, go ahead.
Hey, Steve, from some of your new linebackers that have come over the summer, guys like Ben Davis, Devin Richardson, what have you seen from some of them so far early in camp?
I think one thing you see is they're experienced players. These guys have a worker's mentality. They practice really well. They play very aggressive. They go cut it loose. There's not very much hesitation because you can tell they've played football and they've played it at a high level. Whether you're talking, I know Ray had been here, but Ray Thornton, Ben Davis, Ovi, Devin Richardson, these guys have played a lot of football. And so I think through experience and maturity, they're able to cut it loose and play a little bit faster and play with the right kind of physicality that we're looking for and speed that we're looking for.
Last one, Michael.
Hey, Steve. Want to ask you about Bijan Robinson. In your short time with him, what do you think makes him such a special talent? And then is there anyone that you've coached or watched that you think is a good comparison for him in the backfield?
I think what makes Bijan special is who he is as a person. He's just a really good human being. I think he's caring, he's thoughtful, he's got great work ethic, he's determined, he's motivated, he's humble. And I think in the end, that makes him a good person. And that's also what makes him a good player. He puts in the work, he's got drive, he's got humility, he's a really good teammate. So in the end, I quite frankly, I think Bijan is unique to me. He's a very special young man.